Hey gang, thanks for joining us for another Better Call Sexton. Remember to like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. It helps the channel. We have got an action-packed docket for you today. Is the secret to marriage something that you can do in the kitchen? Lori Loughlin, Aunt Becky getting divorced. We can talk about that. Doctors getting divorced. Do they have a prescription to make things better for us? And some new dating terms from over the pond in Britain. Let's get after it.
All right, some original Jim Sexton proprietary topic here. One of my favorite things from you that has really stuck with me when I first heard about it is the infamous blowjobs and granola story.
Blowjobs and granola. It's a famous one.
I feel like that.
I'm always happy to tell that story.
It crystallized a lot of things for me.
It crystallizes a lot of things for a lot of people. Yeah, so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of the story. I was representing a woman in her divorce. It had been a long time coming. And we'd spent a lot of miles together, and we were sitting on a break-in testimony outside of the courtroom, waiting for the courtroom to open up for the afternoon. And we were just chit-chatting, like we'd spent a lot of time together. And I asked her, because I tend to sometimes, once I've got to know a client, I get interested in the history of their marriage. And I said, was there a moment in the marriage where you realized that the marriage was over? And she said, oh yeah, I remember it very vividly. And I said, what was it? And she said, there was this granola that I used to put on my yogurt for breakfast every day. And they only sold it at like one store. And my husband used to always get it for me. And whenever the bag was running out, I would just like the next day I'd open it and there'd be another bag of it there. And she's like, and I always just loved it. Like he never wanted credit for it. He never was like, oh, did you see I got your granola? It was just something he did. And it showed me that he was paying attention. And it showed me that like he cared about me. And it just felt like this little act of love. And one day I went in to get my granola and I realized I was out of granola. She's like, so I didn't know what to do. So I just left the empty bag in there because I thought, oh, maybe he's been busy and he didn't notice. She said, and then a couple days later, I realized like the bag was still there and it was still empty. And I remember thinking, oh shit, this thing might be over. And I found that very moving because I thought, yeah, there are these little things that we do for each other that make us feel loved. And I said to her, was there anything like that you do for him or did for him that you stopped doing? And without hesitation, she went, yeah, blowjobs. And I literally spit my espresso out. Like it was like something out of a movie. I was like, And she goes, no, I'm serious, blowjobs. She was like, when we first started dating, I used to like give him blowjobs a lot. She's like, it took a couple of minutes and like all day he was in a good mood and he'd be texting me and he'd be like, oh my God, this morning was so hot. And she's like, I felt like, it's like, yeah, I unloaded the gun. Like it's good. She said, and then eventually, she's like, I just stopped. She's like, and it wasn't like a conscious decision. It was really like, oh, well, I could give him one this morning, but I'm going to see him tonight and we can have sex and then we'll both enjoy it and that'll be even more fun. And she said, I don't know, at some point, I guess I went a bunch of months without giving him a blowjob. She's like, when we were first dating, I used to give him all the time, almost every day. It was like almost without him even asking. It was just something I would do. And she said, yeah. And I said, well, like which came first, the chicken or the egg, like the granola or the blowjob? She's like, I really don't know. And I found myself thinking like, what if that's it? Like, what if that's what relationships are about? Blowjobs and granola. Like, I'm not saying those are the same thing. Like, I've bought granola before. It's easy. I've never given a blowjob, but I have to tell you, I'm profoundly impressed anytime anyone ever has. So it's a wonderful thing. I'm not saying they're the same. But there's something that we do for our partner, for their pleasure, for their benefit, that just is a gesture that I'm paying attention. Your pleasure is important to me. I want you to feel loved. I want you to feel special. I want to be here for you. And I don't necessarily want to do it in a performative, like, oh, I'm doing this and now you owe me one. It's just this sense of like, yeah, like I'm just here to be happy and make you happy. And it makes me happy to make you happy. And I thought to myself, like wonder how many relationships, if we paid attention to those things, that we'd prevent slippage, because maybe slippage is the thing that leads us down that road that leads right to my office. So blowjobs and granola, man, that's resonated with people.
When you said I bought granola before, I thought you were about to say, and I've bought a blowjob before too.
I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny. No, I will tell you, it's a lot easier to get granola and it's a lot cheaper to get granola. But both are really good for you, in moderation. And both are great in the morning or late at night when you're drunk. The similarities actually really stand out for me now. Never mind. Both are bad if they're caught in your throat. Never mind. All right, I'm going to stop. This is becoming inappropriate.
Aunt Becky will be splitting up with her husband, Mossimo Ginelli.
He's a realtor, very successful realtor.
Now, it sounds like the legal documents have not yet been filed. Actually seems to be pretty uneventful so far. They are splitting up, but best known in recent years for the USC admissions scandal.
Oof, that was a rough one.
And this seems to be kind of reigniting that debate. So what are your thoughts on parents using their means, their wealth, and their power for their kids, and can it go too far?
I mean, I think the two things you can always bet on people spending money on are their kids and their pets. Those are like two really good choices. And if you have a grift that involves people's kids or people's, and also, by the way, Hollywood and high net worth people tend to very much like live vicariously through their children. So they want their kids to be successful. I mean, look, all parents want their kids to be successful. But if you have that performative life, that Hollywood life, that public life, and what we have here is we have a realtor who is a very high profile, ultra high net worth realtor to the stars. And we have a Hollywood actor. These are two people that are going to have a very public life, and they've been on a reality show and they've done all of that stuff. So these are people that have a very, very public life. And look, I get that people have a hard time keeping it together when they're in that situation. I don't know what else to say, except that, this is a situation where people make bad choices on behalf of their children because they want that performative life. They want people to envy them. I get it, but your words will come back and bite you in the ass. Your kids have a tendency now to be on social media and talking. That was really what her undoing was the child, quote unquote child, getting on there and talking about how I want to go to college because I want to go to parties and that'll be nice, but I don't know that I really want to be a student. That was the kind of thing that's just going to bring an avalanche of hate towards you. And again, people tend to want to hate good-looking, successful celebrities. It's something that people are sort of built into disliking. So I get what happened here. It's unfortunate that under the pressure of a public debacle like that, it takes a toll on a marriage. I mean, I've seen people's marriages end for reasons that are unfortunate and beyond their control, like the death of a child or, a serious medical issue that affects the family and changes the way they view each other. This admission scandal was clearly something that took a toll on this family. Is it the straw that broke the camel's back, or was it the beginning of the end? Or there's no way to really know. The only two people that really know what's going on in a marriage are the two people that are in it, and they even know like maybe a quarter of what's going on in their own marriage. So who the hell knows what actually happened here? But it sounds like they're on their way out. They're two high net worth people. They're two successful people. I'm sure that it'll be. I hope, look, the trajectory of Hollywood divorces is always roughly the same. It's always joint statement from the publicists of our chapter as married couple has come to an end. However, we now continue our journey as co-parents and we wish each other nothing but love and respect. Like the Tim Burton, Monica Bellucci playbook, they just put out that same statement. What's going on behind it? I can tell you many times we've put out those statements with a crisis PR team working, in concert with our firm, when in reality, these people were trying to kill each other behind closed doors, or where this thing has been over for years and they just now are making the announcement. So there are a lot of people out there, I can tell you, that are negotiating in our conference room that are publicly still showing up on red carpets together, even though they haven't slept in the same room in the last 10 years. So, the private lives of public figures, you have no idea what's actually going on behind the scenes.
I always felt that the punishment for that admission scandal was a bit harsh. 2 months in prison, $150K, and 100 hours of community service. You also had 2 years of supervised release. Is that about the correct punishment for such a scandal?
I mean, these are the kinds of things that, look, there was a fraud that was happening there. Fraud is when you make a material misrepresentation of fact for the purposes of receiving some benefit. It might seem to an outsider that what did they do? They paid some money for their kid to have an advantage. The rowing scholarship that their daughter who doesn't row got, there's probably some kid out there who legitimately needed that scholarship money and didn't get it because their parent wasn't on Full House. And that's, so it really is a question of is there such a thing as a victimless crime? And I think a situation like this, I don't think it's a victimless crime. There are young people that did not get scholarship money or did not get an admission seat in a very competitive school because somebody else had the money to pay someone to take an SAT for them or to, grease a coach so they got an academic scholarship they weren't qualified for. So, what should the punishment for that be? Look, the law is constantly imposing bizarre, arbitrary things. We think in generalities, but we live in details. If you lose a thumb in an accident, the court will be in a position of having to quantify the value of your thumb. And if you're an 80-something-year-old, it's going to be different than if you're a 12-year-old. And if you're a 25-year-old surgical resident, it's going to be a hell of a lot more than if you're a guy who digs ditches and still can do that without a thumb. Like, and is that fair? What's the right value for a thumb? Like, I don't really know that any of us are truly qualified to say it, but we got to pick a number, and that's the number that we pick. How much time should Diddy have got? How much time should anybody get for the behavior that they've engaged in? Is it going to fix something? Is it going to bring somebody back? Is it going to unassault someone? No, we pick numbers and we have to assign those values to things. And that's what the law does. Is it the right number? I have no idea. If it is, it might just be a coincidence that it's the right number, but it's within the parameters that are appropriate for sentencing for that kind of a crime, period.
Speaking of Diddy, the artwork of the courtroom scene where he's on his hands and knees has gone viral.
Yeah.
What's the deal with those courtroom pictures? Why is that
you're
thing?
not allowed to take photographs in a courtroom. So it turned into something where they would have sketch artists, and the sketch artists would come in and try to do an approximation of what it looked like, because you can't have photographs. Most courtrooms, most courthouses, you're not allowed to take photos anywhere in the courthouse. You're not allowed to video record anywhere in the courthouse unless you have explicit permission. And then you have to show that there's some genuine public interest, and you have to have all kinds of protections so the jurors are never shown. There's all kinds of, it's why I've been approached like a dozen times from every network about, we want to do a reality show and we'll pay your clients their entire divorce retainer, we'll pay their fees, but we want to follow you through each stage of it. And we're like, listen, I'm not the problem. My client won't be the problem. The other side has to sign off. The other side's lawyer has to sign off. All the people in the courthouse have to sign off. Like, it is impossible. It can't be done. You'd have to stage things. That's how you'd have to do things. So that's the same thing with the sketch artists. I mean, I think they look absolutely preposterous and cartoonish. There are a couple of courtroom sketches of me that are out there. I don't know if you can find them if you Google, but I have to tell you, I have one of them because the courtroom artist gave it to me. It looks nothing like me. And that's not like false modesty or me not being honest about the fact that I got gray hair and my nose is pointy. Like, trust me, like the sketches just don't look like the person.
Do they do that like on purpose? Is there an art? Are they trying to go viral?
No, there's like an aesthetic,
yeah,
and they're trying to do that aesthetic. Mm-hmm. Like it's like, when you go on like the boardwalk and the dude tries to do the painting of you and they make like the big head and a little, but like it's a particular aesthetic, and it's courtroom sketch artists have an aesthetic. I'm sure there's somebody out there that could do a super photorealistic version of it. Like, I have some tattoos that are incredibly photorealistic, and I'm sure if the guy took the time, but the idea is that they're supposed to like sort of draw these sketches really quickly, and they're sort of, doing it impromptu from a description. Very often they're not even in the room. They're getting it from a description from someone. It's kind of like when you go in and say like, here's what the man who stole my purse looks like, and you describe them, and then they just sort of paint something based on that. It's the same thing, but I think there is some room out there because some of them are worse than others for sure.
From the courtroom to the doctor's office, Medscape says that doctors are less likely to get divorced than non-doctors, but when they do go through divorce, it's very complicated because you have to take into account the value of their medical practice and the hours on the job demand. So the question is, are there any professions that are quote unquote safer from divorce than others? And how the hell do divorce lawyers get divorced?
Divorce. I can answer those questions in reverse order. So divorce lawyers either, in my experience, just go to a mediator, which is what I did and most of my colleagues do, or they have knockdown, drag out wars like you've never seen. There's like nothing in between. There's no such thing as like it's medium level divorce for divorce. Like, divorce lawyers get divorced. It's either like hold hands, sing kumbaya, and everybody's super reasonable, or it's just like murder, death, kill, and there's nothing in between, and it's brutal, and it's knockdown, drag out. I will tell you, having been a divorce lawyer for 25 years, there are no clients I hate representing more than other lawyers. Like, lawyers are the worst, period, clients, period, ever, period. That's it. There's nothing in between. Doctors are actually pretty easy to represent. I've represented a lot of doctors, surgeons in particular. Surgeons are an interesting bunch because they're a combination of a clinician and an artist. Like, they're a sculptor in a sense. Like, they have something that they do with their hands that requires a tremendous amount of dexterity. And so they're like a combination between an artist, a sculptor, a painter, like someone who does precision work, and a person who's a mathematical and scientific mind. My favorite clients to represent are quant people in finance because they're just all about like specific numbers, return on investment, risk, hedging risk. Like, they understand these things in a very dispassionate, unemotional way. The problem is like traders, hedge fund guys, they're incredibly risk comfortable because they have to be. So everything turns into like risk calculation and warfare with them. And they're willing to absorb a tremendous amount of risk if they think there's enough of a potential return. So they're shrewd negotiators. But yeah, I will tell you that lawyers are tough clients to deal with. Doctors, I'm not surprised to hear that divorce among doctors is getting less likely. Doctors aren't making the money they used to. Like when I started practicing 25 years ago, doctors were still something of royalty. And then the Joint Commission on the Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations came out, and we basically handed over the management of healthcare facilities to people with MBAs instead of people with MDs and PhDs. And suddenly it became much more of a capitalist driven system, and doctors took a big hit in terms of what they make. Surgeons still make a lot of money, but GPs, cardiologists, like doctors themselves, like diagnosticians, endocrinologists, non-surgeons, do not make the money that they used to make at all, period, full stop. So it really is, it's a different, it's a lot harder to, cut up the assets when they're, abundant and they're hard to quantify. But when it comes to like a W-2 wage earner of a GP or an internist, like that's not hard. That's not a hard divorce to do.
All right, we're going across the pond, as you said.
That's it.
I know how you love an old trend given a new name.
I do.
So Britain has 6 new dating trends. I want to go through.
They're not going to be new dating trends. I'm telling you right now. I've never heard these. They're going to be new names for shit people have been doing since we were living in caves. Go ahead.
Okay, the first one is called choremancing. Meaning blending,
I already want to kill myself.
Blending
I
romance.
already am unhappy with this segment, but go ahead. All right.
Choremancing romance with everyday chores and tasks, meaning our date is
seriously telling me
going to be walking the dog or doing the laundry.
Yeah, this is a new fucking concept. Yeah, absolutely. Boy, who thought of that? Like, I can't imagine any man has ever been like, hey, maybe if I clean out the garage, I'll get a blowjob this weekend. Like, that never crossed anybody's mind until someone in the UK went like, I've got myself an idea, governor. I might be able to get my knob sloppied on if I go and, take this trash out for my bird at home. Like, really? Like, really, guys? Like, there's a new fucking thing. You came up with it? Come on. Like, look, I get it. I think you're absolutely, listen, I think there is something to be said for a couple trying to turn the mundanities of day-to-day life into something more fun. I think that's kind of cool. Like, I have to tell you, I had a buddy who got married a couple of years back, and he said to me, I said, oh, how's it going? You guys just got married. He goes, well, like when you first move in together, it's tough. And I was like, I kind of remember it as a lot of fucking and putting together IKEA furniture. That's what I remember it as. Like, I don't really remember that was like a really difficult time. Like, so I think that people do sometimes, again, like to a person with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you're annoyed at your spouse, cleaning out the garage becomes the most like, oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? Whereas if you're like into this person, everything they do is cute. Everything they do is sexy. Everything they're like bending over to get the box and you're like, look at you bending over, picking up the box. Like, if you pick up the box, you're like, look at you, big strong man, picking up that box all by yourself. Like, this is what happens. So if you're into each other, yeah, the mundanities are super fun. That's like part of the best stuff in the world. It's like, what'd you guys do this weekend? Nothing. We sat and watched like a bunch of stuff on YouTube for like 2 minutes, and then we like ate some food. Like, okay. Whereas if you just went, what did you do this weekend? Absolutely nothing. We sat and watched TV again, and then we like ate. That was it. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't do anything. So if you want to be happy, you're going to find ways to be happy. If you want to be unhappy, you're going to be unhappy. But yes, choremancing, to the extent that it's finding something romantic in something unromantic, it's not new. And to the extent that it's like, hey, I'll do some mundanity so my spouse feels like I did some act of service for them and they might feel more affectionately towards me. Again, not a new concept, just a new name for something people have always been doing.
Retromancing, an old school approach inspired by love stories from parents and grandparents where people are now focusing on opening doors, holding hands, cooking meals, and phone calls instead of texting. So an old school approach to the dating.
I mean, look, I'm a fan of this concept. Again, I don't think there's anything new or avant-garde about the idea of like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to like open the door for your partner or to be a little old school and gentlemanly in the scheme of things? Like, people find those kinds of things charming and romantic. There was a time where it was sort of charming and romantic. The little dance that men and women did with each other and that little sort of courtship dance was a thing that everybody found very charming. And yeah, now we went into the world of nonstop apps and texting texting and instant gratification and sliding into people's DMs. And now we're going back in the other direction and being like, oh, maybe there was actually something to like approaching someone in real life and asking them on a date and then picking them up and having it be a little bit nervous and a little bit awkward, but also a little bit exciting, and trying to impress them and trying to sort of court them, and also trying to be an object of desire for that person, putting on some perfume and some makeup and making yourself desirable. Like, I don't think this is the game that's been going on for a long time, kids. I don't think that there's anything avant-garde about, putting a new label on that. I think it's great. I think it's great that we get back in that direction. I think it's actually the thing that's going to save us from the blizzard of disconnections that all these new ways of connecting have created.
I think you're going to like this one. Fur casting. Finding relationships based on people's love of animals or plans around pets.
You're absolutely correct. I do love that. Yeah, I think that's great. Let me tell you something. I married a cat person. It'll never happen again. I should have fucking known. I got to tell you, the first time that a dog came around, let me tell you something. I don't know anyone who lives in my building. I know every fucking dog in that building. Every dog, I know them by name. I have a guy who lives down the hall from me. I do not know his name. I've said hello to him 100 times. His dog's name is Baloo. I love his dog. I never forget that dog's name. Like, I'm so sorry, Baloo's dad, because that's what I refer to you as, is Baloo's dad. But Baloo's dad, I don't remember your first name. I remember Baloo. I know everything about him. I love him. He's a wonderful dog. So the truth is, like, yeah, I think, look, the love of pets is a huge thing. I should have known when my ex-wife, the first time a dog came up and I was like, look at this little guy. Who's this little man right here? And she went, oh, that's not, hi. Okay, that's nice. I should have been like, what the fuck are you thinking? You're going to marry this woman? That's insane. Okay. So yeah, look, I think there's a lot to be said for people's love of animals. What are animals? They have nothing to offer you. They are by definition weaker than you. They are, our love for them is beautiful, not because they have rights, but because they stand before us powerless and trembling to some degree. And how nicely you treat something that is powerless against you and has no agenda that can serve you in any way, and how much kindness you extend to that tells me a lot about your character. I am much more interested in how someone treats a waiter at a restaurant than how they treat me because they see me on TV. That's not impressive to me. How you treat someone who has power and authority and can help you is meaningless. Whereas how you treat someone who has absolutely nothing to offer you, that tells me something about your character. I was a waiter for many, many years. It was my job all through college, and it was my job through part of grad school. And I have to tell you, I learned more about interacting with people, because how people treat the wait staff tells you a lot about their character. Go out on a dinner date with someone and see how they treat the wait staff, see how they tip. That's going to tell you everything you need to know. See how someone treats animals, see how someone treats pets. That's an important piece of the puzzle of who that person actually is.
The last two I'm going to combine together. It's called turbo dating. People who skip the small talk and are upfront immediately about deal breakers, life goals, and hardcore values. And then there's resaddling, which is a newly single person who's been out of the dating game for a while, and they re-enter the dating pool and they go with radical honesty and being extremely upfront. So turbo dating plus resaddling, the idea being I'm going to lay it all on the line immediately, and I don't care who I scare off. They're going to know who I am.
Yeah, here's the problem. The problem with most grifts is people don't tell you they're a grift. And the problem with most lines is people don't tell you they're a line. So if somebody says to you, listen, I'm tired of the games. I'm tired of all this stuff. I'm just going to be real. Fucking stand down. Watch out. It's like when somebody says to you, listen, you don't need a lawyer. You definitely need a lawyer. Somebody said, we don't need to write this down. We definitely need to write this down. Like, so if somebody says like, I'm not like other girls, you are definitely like other girls. That is, if a guy's like, oh, not me. I know a lot of guys who are like that, but I'm not like that. Run in the other direction. Like, so part of this is there's a grift there. Like there's a, like, oh, listen, I'm just tired of the game. No kidding. Who wouldn't be tired of the games? But just because someone says they're tired of the games doesn't mean they're actually tired of the game. That might be the game. The game might be that they pretend that they're tired of the game. That's their game. So I would be a little skeptical about this, but that being said, and again, I don't have the spidey sense to tell you if it's coming from a place of sincerity, but I think there's a lot of value in, look, I think when we date people, we tend to have Spanx on our personality for like the first month. And it's really unfair. I tell my sons all the time when we watch these TikTok videos with, like the woman who does the when did you get hot transformation, and they go from looking like, I don't know what, my great aunt, to all of a sudden they're like ridiculously hot. Makeup is not even fair. It's like it's totally unfair. I think the first date should be take somebody to a swimming pool, like, because you gotta figure out what's going on underneath this. And again, it ties to what I said earlier. Like, take someone to a place where you're going to see them interacting with other people and see how they actually behave. Because once the Spanx comes off of somebody's personality, yeah, then we can get down to business of figuring out who this person is. This is why people should be in relationships for a little while before they make major life decisions, like moving in together, getting engaged, or announcing to the world that they're Instagram, together now, like Instagram official. I think it's important to spend a little time watching somebody in a variety of settings. To know a thing, I think Schopenhauer said, to know a thing, know its limits. When it's pushed past its tolerances, its nature emerges. And I think what you should do is push things a little bit. Get to know someone and then see them under different conditions. See them when they're tired. See them when they're hungry. See them when they're under stress. See them when they haven't had enough sleep. See them when they're well rested. See them with their family. See them with members of the opposite sex. See them with their friends. See them with your friends. And once you've seen all of those different versions of the person, now you can start making some decisions if this is a person you're serious about.
All right, let's head over to our reader submission. Jim, I am divorced with 3 young kids and getting remarried. I have a co-parenting situation that is functioning on the surface for the children, but certainly not ideal or happy for the adults involved, specifically my new soon-to-be wife. The relationship between my ex and her is non-existent. My ex doesn't engage with her at all. I never expected them to be friends based on my divorce, but them not getting along in any capacity is a serious problem that I'm worried will affect my second attempt at marriage and a potential new family. How can I get my ex to be civil or cordial for my new wife? And if she doesn't agree to do so, what do I do? I can't cut her out because we're co-parenting, but I also don't want to tolerate her mistreating my fiance. Sincerely, a guy who just wants peace.
Man, this is a real problem, and it's a common problem. It's one a lot of my clients have had and my former clients have had. I mean, at the outset, let me tell you something. There's 3 things you can't change. You can't change the past, you can't change the truth, and you can't change another person. So you are not going to be able to change your ex-wife and make her like your new spouse. And you are not going to be able to change that part of your new spouse that wants to be liked by your ex and that resents the fact that your ex doesn't like her, because, by the way, there are going to be 3 young children in your new spouse's house that she has a quasi-parental role with, but she's not their parent and she knows it. So there's a lot, and they know it, by the way. So there's a lot going on here. And this is why, unfortunately, the statistics for blended families, people remarrying, the divorce rate is higher than the divorce rate for first marriages. Now, that being said, that's the bad news first. I like giving the bad news first. The good news is people learn a lot from their mistakes. And I very rarely do anything right the first time I do it. I have to practice a couple of times. So there is a lot to be learned from the difficulty of going through a divorce. You are fire forged at this point. Like, you've been through something really difficult. You got divorced with 3 young children. That is no small feat. So congratulations on surviving that. The only way out was through, and you made it through. And you found another person who loves you and knows that you have 3 children. So you have some kinds of baggage with you and you have a pain in the ass ex. What you're going to have to do now is walk a razor's edge. And that is, you're going to have to find a way to, and in the presence of your children, to show a tremendous amount of respect for your children's mother, and make them feel comfortable, your children, talking about their mom. And you're going to have to talk about their mom to and in their presence in a way that reflects a love and respect for her. That is going to cause some hairs on the back of your new spouse's neck to stand up, because she's going to feel like you're taking that one's side. So again, you got to walk a razor's edge here. And we've all had ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends. We all know that there's a certain line to walk. You don't want to do, you're not in high school anymore. You don't want to do the, like, everything about your ex is awful and they were the worst person in the whole wide world. You do not want to do that when you have children with somebody. But you also want to be sensitive to your new partner and realize that your loyalty to that person is also an important variable in this equation. I think, and again, it's going to sound cliche, the best antidote to this is just being candid, honest, open, talking to your current partner about your frustration, about the stress that you feel that she deserves to be treated better by your ex. I think sometimes just acknowledging that a person, like, because one of the things I think we as men tend to do is minimize problems. Like, we don't want to see the people around us in pain. So when they're in pain and we can't fix it, we try to go, well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. You're not doing yourself a service by doing that, and you're not helping your partner by doing that. You actually would be doing a better job to say to her, this is so frustrating to watch, and I'm so sorry it's going on. Like, I can't say I regret ever being with that woman because I love my children. But I have to tell you how much I love and admire the fact that you love me as much as you do, even in the face of this pain in the ass ex of mine. Put it in the column of things to love about this new partner and say it to that person over and over again. And then don't get into the pissing match with your ex. Like, rise above this. When they go low, you go high. Because trust me when I say, she is trying to bait you into conflict. She is trying to just poke at you and poke at you and poke at you and hope that you'll blow up. And then she's going to go, I can't believe he blew me up that way. He's such a narcissist. He's gaslighting me. He's a pathological. You will not win that fight. So just, again, I'm not saying tolerate bad behavior, demand a certain level of respect. Don't treat anybody like you're better than them, but don't let anybody treat you like you're less than them. Like, you need to just maintain a certain level of respect. But I have to tell you, like, you do not want to tolerate terrible behavior, but you do not want to get down in the mud with an ex-spouse when there's kids involved. You're just going to buy yourself a lot of headaches. So again, a lot of empathy, a lot of compassion, a lot of support for your current partner and your soon-to-be spouse, and a lot of like line setting and boundary drawing in a healthy way when it comes to your ex. That's the best I can offer to you, man. You got a tough situation. And guess what? The person who's marrying you, they know what they signed on for. You're as advertised. Like, do not be ashamed of the fact that you're a parent. Do not be ashamed of the fact that you're divorced. Every single thing you've done led you to right where you are, and you wouldn't be with this person if you hadn't gone through those things. You wouldn't be the person you were if you didn't have the children that you have with your ex. So as much as anybody can dislike their ex, if you love your children, you would not have those exact children if you had not married that exact person. So shut the fuck up, because you love your children, and you love your children more than you hate your ex. And that's what you got to focus on, is the love you have. Because I got to tell you, people spend so much time thinking about the thing they've lost that they don't realize how much is walking out the fucking door behind them. So just focus on what you have. You've got 3 great kids, you've got a current partner who loves you, and you've got an ex who at least you tolerate enough that the two of you can interact with each other in some fashion. Hey gang, that's it for our Better Call Sexton today. Thanks for joining us. Remember, like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. It helps the channel. We appreciate you. The channel is growing every day, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Every time I see you on the street, every time I run into one of the fans, it feels great. So thank you for joining us on this journey. We are adjourned for today.